Anthony Edwards might not have the freakish physique like Wemby, but he is a monster.
Edwards gets it back and threw it down and one.
They were lucky that wasn't turned over. Anthony!
But the NBA did not fear him from the start, until one game when he had Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal shook.
But the biggest reason they lost was, damn it, Anthony Edwards. He took his game to the next level.
This was the night Anthony Edwards stopped being potential and became inevitable. That day, a 22-year-old walked into a playoff series against KD, Booker, and Bradley Beal on their home floor in a closeout game and dominated.
A young player at this age, at this stage, we haven't seen this in quite some time, especially going out sweeping a team that features Kevin Durant, Booker, three future Hall of Famers, I believe.
Going into this series, everything pointed in one direction. The Phoenix Suns had experience, star power, and three players who had already proven themselves on the biggest stages in the league. Kevin Durant had been here before. Devin Booker had been here before. Bradley Beal had spent his entire career preparing for moments like this. But Anthony Edwards had not. Yet he was explosive, confident, and incredibly talented. But he was still seen as a young star figuring it out. He was not someone who could walk into a playoff series and dismantle a veteran team built to win now. But once the playoff series started, the Suns seemed to have forgotten how to shine. All of a sudden, the big three of KD, Booker, and Beal just couldn't get it going. Out the gate, Anthony Edwards came out aggressive, scored 33 points, and completely flipped the game in the third quarter. That was the first time Phoenix saw what he could look like when he took control. But in Game 2, Edwards only scored 15 points, although he still controlled the game with playmaking, defense, and pace. Game 3 seemed like the appetizer. On the road in Phoenix, Edwards dropped 36 points and led a dominant third quarter run that broke the game open. And that is what makes Game 4 so important, because now the pressure had completely shifted. Phoenix was down 0-3, facing elimination on their home floor, with Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal all needing to respond. This was supposed to be the moment where experience, urgency, and star power pushed the series back in their favor. And early on, it looked like that might actually happen. Devin Booker came out aggressive and eventually put together one of the best scoring performances of the series. Kevin Durant got to work too, scoring with control and impacting the game on both ends. Phoenix had the crowd, the momentum, and the desperation that usually fuels a comeback. Minnesota, on the other hand, did not have the same lift from role players that carried them earlier in the series. So the game stayed close, and for the first time, the series came down to one question: who was going to take over when it mattered most? Phoenix made an adjustment early in the second half. They stopped sending aggressive double teams and trusted single coverage to slow him down. It was a small decision, but it changed the entire game. Because the moment that coverage shifted, something completely different happened. Anthony Edwards happened.
46-43, Edwards. O'Neal draws the assignment on Edwards. 18 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Edwards!
By the time Edwards got into rhythm, the defense was already reacting late. He scored 31 points in the second half alone, but the number does not fully explain what was happening. This was not a hot streak. This was a player recognizing exactly how he was being guarded and deciding in real time that there was nothing defense could do to stop him. And that is when the fear started to creep in. Anyway, let's get back to the video and look at the part that most people miss when they look back at this game. The scoring stands out. The highlights are obvious, but what actually changed everything was the way Anthony Edwards was reading the defense and solving it in real time. Because this was not a player reacting to what was in front of him. This was a player predicting it. Every coverage Phoenix tried, he had an answer for it before it fully developed. When they switched, he immediately hunted the mismatch and attacked the big before help could arrive.
Edwards, the jumper. 18 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists.
Edwards.
There was no hesitation in that play. He sees the space, understands who is guarding him, and gets downhill instantly before the defense can adjust. But it was not just offense. On the other end of the floor, he was just as locked in, just as aware, just as disruptive. That sequence matters because it shows the full picture. He was not just scoring, he was controlling the game on both ends, dictating pace, forcing mistakes, and making every possession feel uncomfortable for Phoenix. That is what separates a great performance from a defining one. And more importantly, this was the day Anthony Edwards not only changed the way other players see him, but the way fans and even experts see him. This is where respect starts to turn into something else, because now it is no longer about stopping him, it's about hoping he slows down. There's a moment that many creatives and athletes experience when everything kind of slows down and everything comes together and magic happens. Some call it flow state, others call it when you're in the zone. Whatever it is, Anthony Edwards entered that state late in the game and had everyone scared. Because by now, Anthony Edwards was not just scoring or reading the defense. He was overwhelming it, even in the face of his idol. When players start reacting like that, when they start second guessing whether they should even contest, that is when the shift happens. Because fear in basketball does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like hesitation. Sometimes it looks like being a step late. Sometimes it looks like moving out of the way. That moment itself made NBA players fear Anthony Edwards. He goes straight through them, finishes over the top, and leaves no doubt about who is controlling the game. That dunk not only had KD ducking, but it even had legends saying this.
Anthony Edwards is just ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
He dunked on, he yoked on Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant so cold. KD ducked and moved out the way.
That is true. I think he basically ducked and moved out of the way the whole fourth quarter, but that's just me. All right.
And the respect he earned that night was not just about the points or the highlights. It was about how he played.
What is it about Anthony Edwards that every generation loves him?
The way he plays the right way. He plays hard and he plays with that tenacity. You know, the reason why we don't think the younger generation can handle it is because you touch them and they all the time, and then they complain when they don't get that call.
That combination of control, aggression, and confidence is what makes it different. Because now it was not just about what he can do, it was about what defenders feel when they're matched up against him. And once that feeling sets in, once players realize that even when they do everything right, it is still not enough, the game changes for them too. That is when respect turns into fear, and even the GOAT became a fan.
Few people that enjoyed the way you do. One of them is Michael Jordan. That's pretty cool to have, isn't it?
For sure.
Before that playoff series in 2024, Anthony Edwards was a rising star with potential, charisma, and flashes of greatness. But after the game, he became something else entirely.
New kid on the block, and his name is Anthony Edwards. So be aware of him, NBA.
That night was not just about a playoff win or just about a sweep. And it was definitely not just about 40 points. It was the game that Anthony Edwards made NBA players fear him. He became a player who could walk into a playoff series against 3 future Hall of Famers and dominate everyone. This is where the league begins to realize that something bigger is happening, and defenders stop seeing a young player and start preparing for a problem. And ever since, he's become a problem. But how much of a problem do you think Ant-Man can be in this year's playoffs? Let us know in the comments. And if you want more Ant-Man videos, you should see what Shaq got totally right about Anthony Edwards next.